graders, in our last lesson we were introduced to rational numbers, and we saw that rational numbers are either fractions or decimals that are positive or negative. Today what we're going to do is we're going to be looking at how to compare rational numbers. So looking at least to greatest, which one's greater than, which one's less than. And we're going to look back at our work that we did with integers and how we created a number line and then compared them based on closer to 0, farther away from 0. So that's what we're going to be working on today, except today we're doing it with rational numbers. So let's first start out with a fraction. Let's start with a fraction and see how to compare rational numbers when we have a fraction. So the first fraction I want to compare is -1/2 to -3/4. So we're going to look at comparing -1/2 and -3/4. Okay, so that's what we're going to compare. We're comparing both of those. So when we're looking at this, we need to think about denominators. And if our denominators are equivalent or in the same family, so that we can compare them correctly. So I know that 2 can become a 4, right? By multiplying it by 2. So if I look at -1/2 and I multiply this fraction by 2 over 2, I then get 2 over 4. And I just move my negative sign right over. So now I have 2 denominators that are in the same family. And now we can compare this on a number line. So I'm just going to build a number line. I'm mostly to the left because I'm looking at the negative side here. So, and I'm not at 1. So I'm just going to make my 1 here. And I know it's cut into fourths. So I have a 1/2 and 4ths. And now I can label this. And remember, -1/2 is the same as 2 over 4. Okay, so now I can put my dot on this number line because I can graph them. So I have -1/2 and I have -3/4. So let's start with -1/2, which is right here, and -3/4, which is right here. So now I need to know which one is greater than, which one is less than. So when I write this, I'm going to write it the same way I did in integers, and I'm going to say -1/2 is greater than, because it's closer to 0, so that means it's greater than -3/4. And that's because 3/4 is farther away from 0. It's 1 jump more. So that makes it less than because we're on the negative side. Remember, the bigger the negative number, the smaller that it is. So when we write this, we know that 1/2 is greater than 3/4. You can think about this too, like, would you rather owe somebody 3/4 or 50 cents? Well, I would rather owe someone 50 cents than 75 cents. So thinking about it in terms of money as well. Okay, let's do one more where it is a whole number, a negative whole number, and then we're going to go to decimals. Okay, I have negative 2 and 2/3, and negative 1 and 1/3. Okay, same idea here. We're going to check our denominators. Our denominators are both thirds, so we know that this number line is going to be cut into thirds. So I'm going to go ahead and draw my number line. And again, I'm still on the negative side. I should have done one, maybe that was positive, I'm sorry. But let's look at this. I know I need to go to at least 1. And I also know I need to go to negative 2. So I have negative 2 and I have negative 1. But I'm also going beyond, because 2/3 is beyond, farther away from 0 than just 2. So we could go there maybe. Okay, and then we have this line cut into thirds and this line cut into thirds. Okay, so the first one that we want to graph is negative 2 and 2/3. So I'm going to jump to negative 2 first and then go 2 spots beyond. 1/3, 2/3. So here is negative 2 and 2/3 right there. There's the dot for that one. And then I need negative 1 and 1/3. So I'm going to go all the way to negative 1 and then I'm going to go to 1/3. Which is right here, because here's 2/3 and then 3/3 would be at a whole number. So this is negative 1 and 1/3. So we can see which one is further away from 0. So negative 2 and 2/3 is less than negative 1 and 1/3, because this one is closer to 0. And this one's further to the left. So when I write this comparison, I'm going to write negative 2 and 2/3 is less than negative 1 and 1/3. All right, let's do some decimals now. Let's look at some decimals. Actually, maybe we should do, no, we'll do some decimals and then we'll do our triads at the very end. Okay, so let's look at a decimal example. Okay, example C. And we want to compare. So again, we're comparing. I'm going to stay on the negative side just because I want you to have more experience with the negatives. So we're going to compare negative 1 and 3/10 and negative 1 and a half. Okay, so we're going to look at this and we're going to see that we have halves and we have thirds. So we're going to go ahead and graph this number. Okay, now decimals. Remember, decimals are out of tenths because we are in the tenths column. So that means that in between the numbers there are 10 spaces, 10 like cuts, right? So when I draw my number line, I know that when I go from 0 to 1 and 1 to 2, so here's negative 1, here's negative 2, I have 10 spaces in between. So here's a half, 2, 3, 4, and that's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then that would be 10. So you cut it in half and then make 4 in between and then 4 in between the next one. All right, so now we are ready to graph negative 1 and 3/10. So we're going to go to our first spot, negative 1 1/3. So let's hop over there. So we know that we have to get to -1 first, and then we have to go to 3/10 more. So each of these is a 1/10 because we made 10 cuts on our number line. 1, 2, 3. So there's -1 3/10. And then our next one is -1 1/2. So we're going to go back to 0, go to 1 for the whole, or the -1, and then we're going to go to 1/2, which is right here. So -1.5 is the same as saying -1 1/2. So which one is -1.3 when we write this? When we write this, we would write this as -1 3/10 is greater than -1.5 because it is closer to 0. Okay, remember, the closer to 0 on the negative side, the bigger it is. All right, let's go ahead and do some triads now. Let's do triads in a different color. Where did my green go? I feel like I haven't used green in a long time. Here we go. All right, so let's do 2 triads. So here's a triad. I think you guys would know that just by looking at it. Ooh, let's do this. This one looks fun. Okay, this is triad number 5, and this one says -4/7 and -1/7. All right, so there's that one. Go ahead and start on that one if you want. And then the other one that I want to do, different example. All right, let's do number 6 over here. And this one is going to say, let's compare a negative and a positive. How about that? -0.5 and 0. Okay, go ahead and compare both of those. You can do a number line. Make sure that you hit pause right now so you don't hear me solving these problems for you. All right, here we go, 6th graders. Let's build a number line. We have 0, and we know we're cutting into 7 pieces because it says sevenths. So to get to 1, to get to -1, I need 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then 1 whole would be 7 out of 7. All right, let's graph this. -4/7. So I'm going to jump 1/7, 2/7, 3/7, 4/7. Right there. That is -4/7. And then -1/7. -1 is right there. -1/7. Okay, so now we need to compare this. So -4/7 is less than, because it's further away, than -1/7. How did you do on that one? Check yourself. Check your understanding there. All right, this one, we're going to build both sides of the number line. So we're going to have both sides of the number line here because we have a positive and a negative. You probably were able to do this one in your head, and that's okay. But I wanted to give you the opportunity. So -1, 0.5, 0.5, there's 1, but we needed 3/10. So remember, we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and then over here we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so let's go ahead and put our dots on the line. So -1/2, so I'm going to jump to -1/2, which is right here, halfway between 0 and -1. On the computer, these will be more scientific and accurate instead of Miss Englander's spacing. That's okay. All right, and then 0.3 or 3/10. So we're going to jump to 3/10. 1, 2, 3/10, which is right here. And so 0.3, which one is greater? Which one is less? Well, we know that negative half is less than 3/10. Even though this 5 is bigger because it's negative, it's further away from 0. All right, 6th graders, how did you do on this? Go ahead and answer your essential question of how do we compare rational numbers somewhere on your paper? And put your rating in the box out to the side. All right, 6th graders, now that you know how to compare rational numbers, you can actually put these in order now. So the same way we did it before when we were doing integers is the exact same way that we put them in order for rational numbers. So build a number line and then pop them in order. So let's go ahead and do one example of that just so that you have it for your notes. All right, so we have ordering rational numbers. Ordering rational numbers. Again, you're putting them in order from least to greatest or greatest to least, whichever one it asks for. All right. The first one that I want to look at is, let's do the daily water level relative to a dock is recorded for 3 straight days at the same time. So at the same time they go outside and they measure how much water there is at the dock. And so we want to know which is the lowest level. Okay, so we want to know which one is at the lowest level. So on Monday, they record that it has dropped -3 1/10. Okay, that's where it measures. On Tuesday, it is -3 2/10. And on Wednesday, it is -3 3/5. Okay, our job now is to put these in order from least to greatest. First of all, we need to look at this fraction right here. This one is not in tenths, so we need to convert it to tenths. Well, I know that if I multiply 5 by 2, I get tenths. So I need to also multiply 3 by 2. So I'm going to multiply by 2 over 2, and I'm going to get -3 6/10. Okay, now I need to put these in order from least to greatest. So I'm going to graph this, this, and that one, because they're all in tenths. Okay? All right, so we're going to go ahead and build let's build a number line here. Ooh, a little crazy. All right, 0. We have 1, 2, -3. We're going to go all the way out to -4 because we're going beyond. And I probably should have made this more here. Okay, so we're going to have 10 in between. So here's a half. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, you can put the lines in between all of these if you want to, but we know that we need to go to -3 and then over -3. So we're going to go ahead and graph this now. If you feel like that's something you need to do, go for it. Okay, the first one is -3, so I'm going to go to -3 and then just 1 little tenth right there. So that's Monday. So I'm going to put an M for Monday. Then Tuesday is -3 and then 2/10, so that one's right there. And that one is Tuesday. And then the next one is Wednesday, and that one's -3 and 6/10. So I'm going to go all the way -3, and then here's 5/10 because that's halfway. Here's 6/10. So that one right there is Wednesday. So from least to greatest, now I'm going to read it backwards because remember, further away from 0 is smallest. So -3 and 6/10, or you could write this one, -3 and 3/5. So let's put that down too, because on Big Ideas, it might want the simplified version. And then the next one was Tuesday at -3 and 2/10, and then last was Wednesday, -3 and 1/10. All right, 6th graders, go ahead and make sure that you finish copying down this example. If you have any questions about any of these, you can come on over to the Meet and talk to me and ask me any questions that you might have. But now is the time for you to head to Big Ideas and get your practice on. All right, 6th graders, thank you so much for your hard work today and for all your effort and your great attitude. Let's make it a great day the Cougar way.